welcome to recentering your objects. In this video we'll show you how to center your model in the view and learn how to control an object's origin. Let's hop straight on over into Blender. So here we are in Blender and we're going to deal with two things here. First of all, I'll show you the origin. That origin is the orange circle right at the middle here, and we can move that about to our heart's content. It also acts on several things later on in Blender, so it's important to understand its placement is critical when doing certain things. So first of all, let's zoom back out and look at our chessboard, and a very good way of doing this is to simply press Shift and the letter C. That will center our view around the model that we have selected. So there we go, brilliant. Now let's go about exploring this origin. Now on the tool shelf you may have already spotted Set Origin. If we click on that, it gives us a couple of options. So one is to move the geometry to that origin. So it will center the geometry, that is our chessboard, that square in front of us, or checkerboard in front of us. It will move the geometry all the way across and center the geometry around the origin. The next one down is exactly the opposite. So the selection will stay absolutely fine, the geometry there, and it will move the origin to the center of our chessboard. Now origin to 3D cursor, we can move the 3D cursor around, you've seen that before, and if we move the origin to 3D cursor you can see that the orange blob has moved to the 3D cursor. Finally, origin to center of mass. Now because this board is equal all the way around, then origin to center of mass does exactly the same in this case as origin to geometry. But for instance in our pin in the last exercise, because it was larger on the bottom than it was on the top, it does a calculation. You'll find that the origin will be slightly lower because it's got more volume down the bottom of that pin than it has bang in the middle. The origin to geometry would have put that smack bang in the middle of the pin, vertically and horizontally. So I've got a challenge for you now. I would like you to move the board's origin and its placement. So set the board's origin to the center of the board and make sure the board is centered in our scene. Pause the video now and go and give that a go. Okay guys, welcome back. Let's give that a go. Right, so here we are in Blender and I've moved the origin, or the origin happened to have moved all the way over here, far from any logical place. So we need to do a couple of things here. First of all, we can set our origin to the geometry. So geometry to origin or origin to geometry, since that's already flattened on the XY plane, we will do that. So origin to geometry, and let's place it smack bang in the middle of our board. Secondly, we want this whole board centered around the worlds where X, Y, and Z equals 0. So those two are there. There's a couple of ways of doing that. Since we can move the origin to this 3D cursor, we can also move the object to the 3D cursor. But first of all, we need this 3D cursor smack bang in the middle. There are a couple of ways of doing that, but a very quick one is the Shift and S. And we can see there's a snap, so we can snap the selection, that is currently the selected object, chessboard, to a grid. We don't want to do that, so selection to cursor. Well, that would move the whole selection to the cursor as it is, so we'll need to do that in a moment, but not now because the cursor is in the wrong place, and that's an offset to the one above. So finally, cursor to selected, well that would move the cursor to the center of the geometry here. Let's bring back up that menu. Cursor to center, now that's the one that we want. That'll snap the cursor right to the center of our world. So if we click on that, we can see the cursor's moved all the way over there. So now that we have the 3D cursor in the right position, the next thing to do is move this board to there as well. So after we've moved the 3D cursor there, we can simply go Shift and S again, and we can move the selection to the cursor. So what we have selected is currently the board, and if we go selection to cursor, we'll find the board will snap across. Brilliant. A couple of other places you can find that option is under the object menu under snap. We've got all of those options there for you. Okay, brilliant. I'm going to center around our model again, and there we go. Let's move on to the next lecture.